Welcome to today's class in Basics in Biblical Hebrew. We're going to be starting today on Chapter 7, Hebrew Adjectives. So far, we've laid the foundations for the Biblical Hebrew language, starting out with the consonants and their pronunciations and their transliteration symbols. Then we went into the vowels, understanding which were short vowels, which were long vowels, and which were the historical long vowels, what we call the unchangeable vowels. And then we went into the shavas, the simple shavas. And from there, we went into prepositions and definite articles, and how they are attached to nouns. And then went from there to nouns, how to recognize a feminine singular noun, a feminine plural noun, masculine singular noun, which are mainly endingless nouns, and then the masculine plural ending. And so today we're going to go into Hebrew adjectives. Hebrew adjectives function just like English adjectives, in which they basically modify or describe a noun. So basically, if we want to have the word king, but we want to be more specific what type of king, we would say a righteous king or a wicked king. And so this adjective, righteous or wicked, says something about what type of king it is. And so when we go into the inflection of adjectives, Hebrew adjectives inflect, they change, which means they change their form in order to indicate gender and number. And that's when they are modifying a noun, they will agree with the noun that they're modifying in gender and in number. They are inflected in four forms. They have a masculine singular, a masculine plural, a feminine singular, and a feminine plural. The good news is that the inflectional endings for the adjectives are the same endings that we've already learned for the nouns, like the im for masculine plural and the ot for feminine plural. And so what we're going to do here is we're going to go through and learn the inflected endings of here for the inflected adjectives. Okay, here we have in the singular we have masculine and the word tov, which is good. And so we have tov here for masculine singular, and we have tova for feminine singular. We have the comets haze, you can see in the red here, highlighted in the red. That is telling you the ending that is showing the gender and the number of that adjective right there. Is tova. That is basically feminine singular. And then down here in the plural we have tovim, which is would go with a masculine plural noun. And then we have tovot, which is feminine plural, which would go with a feminine plural noun. And again, you can see the endings here highlighted in red. The comets hay is the feminine singular, and the heric yod mem sofit or final mem is the masculine plural, and the whole vav tav is the ot is the feminine plural. Notice here in the masculine singular there is no ending, just like in most masculine nouns there is no singular masculine ending on there. So we do see these endings highlighted over here, and written here is commas hay, masculine plural, heric yod mem sofit, like we saw in Elohim and various other words, has a masculine plural, and then ot for feminine plural. So that's fairly simple because nothing really new you really have to learn there. Just a few notes about the inflection of adjectives. Hebrew adjectives agree in gender and number with the nouns that they modify. I already mentioned that. This means that the adjective modifying a feminine noun will take a feminine ending, and similarly an adjective modifying a masculine noun will take a masculine ending. For example, when we want to say a good horse, we would say sus tov, as is translated good horse or a good horse. This is indefinite since it doesn't have a definite article in it, and we'll get in that in a little while. Show how we can have definite um, articles added to both the noun and the adjective here. Now the noun sus is masculine, and so the adjective tov must also be masculine in form to agree with it, to modify it. Likewise, we have malka, which is queen, and then we have tova, malka tova, a good queen, or a good queen, or a good queen. The malka is feminine, so the adjective tova must also be feminine in form because the adjectives modifying the feminine nouns take feminine endings. Now, notice that the gender of an adjective does not change the meaning of an adjective. It just is showing which noun that adjective is modifying. Okay, let's go on further here. Adjectives that are plural in form are singular in translational value. So basically, in other words, they do not translate with any kind of plural meaning. For example, malachot tavot is translated as good queens. We wouldn't say goods queens, we would say good queens. The reason that the adjective tavot is plural in form is because the noun is modifying is plural. Malachot is plural. So that's the reason why the adjective is plural, because the noun that it's modifying is plural. And in Hebrew, a number of adjectives do not change the meaning of an adjective unless the adjective is used substantively, basically as a noun. And we'll get into that a little bit later on this lesson. Now, unlike tov, most adjectives undergo vowel changes when the inflectional endings are added. And the reason why tov doesn't go through a change is because this this whole and vav is what we call a historical long vowel, and so it doesn't change. Now the whole and by itself, if there wasn't a vav there, that would, but not the whole and vav. And so you got different vowels like the whole and vav, the seriod, the hirik yod. Those are historical long vowels. And if you go back to chapter 2 to study the vowels on that, those do not break down. These do not reduce their vocalizations. They don't go from long to short to shavaz. These remain the same. And that's the reason why we studied in the rules of Shava that whenever a Shava follows a historical long vowel or a long vowel, it is vocal. And so it means it's pronunciated. Now let's go ahead and go into the use of these adjectives. We need to see how these adjectives are used in form. First one that we have is basically the attributive use of the adjective. Now, when an adjective modifies a noun, it's being used attributively. For example, good student and big book. The adjectives modify the nouns. Now, in Hebrew, attributive adjectives follow or come after the noun they're modifying. And there's a lot of languages that do that. Even Spanish does that. Where it say leche chocolate. Leche is milk. Chocolate is the adjective, tells you what type of milk. Same thing in Hebrew. Hebrew's adjectives follow the nouns when they're using the attributive use. In Hebrew, the attributive adjectives follow or come after the nouns they're modifying. Now, the modifying adjective must also agree with the noun in gender, number, and definiteness. And this is key. We must remember this, that when we're looking at an attributive adjective, it must agree with the noun that it is modifying in gender, number, and in definiteness. Now, the term definiteness refers to the presence of a definite article on the noun. If there's no definite article, then it's indefinite. So then the adjective would need to be indefinite also. And here's some examples that we're going to look at of the use of the attributive adjective here. They're pretty simple. It's just nothing real big here, but just basically just go through here and look at it here. For example, we have here Ish Tov, a good man or good man. Ish Tov. You see how Tov agrees with man in gender, number, and in indefiniteness in this case. Now here is the definite use of it. Ha-ish ha-tov. Ha-ish ha-tov. Um, Here we see that the adjective tov has both the definite article of the hey, the potok, and the doubling of the first consonantal letter. That's the classical form of adding, attaching a definite article to a noun as well as an adjective. And then so it agrees in gender, number, it's both singular, ish is singular, tov is singular, and hatov, ha'ish hatov. So we have the definiteness here, the definite article, both being on the adjective as well as the noun. So that's how we're going to see the make the difference between an attributive adjective and a predicate adjective when we get into just a moment. Now, isha tova is here again. You got the comment say showing this is a feminine noun here, and then tova is got the comment say also. Isha tova, good woman or a good woman. Now, if we want to make that definite, ha isha hatova, we would say the good woman. You can see that we have basically the ha isha, which is a definite article, the woman, and then we have hatova, definite article, so it agrees with the noun in gender, number, and indefiniteness. Same thing with anashim tovim, good men. Anashim, you can see that the hierarchy yod mem safid here is telling you that that is a masculine plural noun. So you have tovim here, tov, with the hierarchy yod mem safid here telling you that that is masculine plural also. And if we want to make it definite, a definite article on here, a definite adjective, attributive adjective, we would have ha'anashim hatovim, and it means the good men. So you're looking at that definite article here, represented in the hey, the patak, and the doubling of the first letter of the noun or the adjective here in this case. We have also nashim, which is nashim is one of those nouns that just like anashim that are a little erratic changing of a noun. And it goes from ish to anashim and isha from nashim. So we have nashim, women, tovot. Of course, in this case, you got nashim is one of those ones that I used to call one of those cross dressers. It has the masculine plural ending on a feminine noun, and you likewise have it sometimes with masculine nouns too. They have the feminine plural endings, like I vote for fathers. In this case, if you want to know what the true gender of a noun is, you look at the adjective that is modifying it. That will tell you the true gender. So we see that tovot is feminine, so we know that the noun is feminine. So we say nashim, we wouldn't have tovim, we'd have tovot. So even though the noun has a masculine plural ending on it, it's just one of those rare cases where you have a masculine plural ending on a feminine noun. Same thing, we make it definite. Hanashim hatovot. We have add the definite article onto the adjective here because the noun has the definite article. Hatovot, and agrees in the noun and gender, number, and definiteness here again. So that's the key thing, is that for it to be attributive, the basically the adjective needs to agree with the noun that it's modifying in gender, number, and definiteness here. Okay, let's go ahead and go into the predicate use of the adjective. As we alluded to just briefly, that an attributive adjective must agree. It normally comes after the noun that it modifies, and it must agree with it in gender, number, and indefiniteness or indefiniteness, depending on what the noun is. But the predicate use is this use of the adjective does not modify the noun, but rather asserts something about it. In the examples, the student is good or the book is big, the adjectives assert something about the noun so as to create a predication or to require a to be verb. In English, a form of the verb to be is used to indicate the predicate relationship. So in Hebrew, the predicate relationship is indicated when an adjective matches the noun in gender and number, but not in definiteness. And that's key there. It doesn't agree in definiteness. The predicate adjective never takes a definite article. So with regard to word order, the adjective may either precede or follow the noun. And here's some examples of that here as we're getting in here. Um, for example, we have Haish here. Haish Tov or Tov Haish. So we would but translate this, the man is good. We got the definite article on Ish, Tov, on Ish here, the man. And so we basically, but we don't have a definite article on the adjective Tov. Tov agrees with Ish in gender and in number, but not in definiteness. Same thing with number 2 here. We have Haisha Tova or Tova Haisha. And I would dare say most of the times you're going to see a lot of times the adjective come before the noun. Um, that is basically in predication with. Um, there are some cases when it's after, but it can come either before or after. The key thing you want to look for is that it agrees in gender, number, and but does not agree in definiteness. So that's the key to look for a predicate noun or a predicate adjective here. Next one, if we want to say the men are good, we would say ha'anashim tovim or tovim ha'anashim. Either way, the adjective tovim agrees with the anashim in gender and number, but not in definiteness. And the same thing with the women are good. Hanashim tovot, tovot hanashim. So you can see that nashim, hanashim, tovot agrees with hanashim in gender and number. They're both feminine and plural. Again, remember tovot, ot is showing the true gender of that noun. But it doesn't have the definite article in it. So in the examples above, basically we had the predicate use there, and there's no form of Hebrew verb there to be, and so the is or are, we should supply ourselves into that translation here. Now in this usage, a predication is created with a noun and with an adjective without the definite article. The noun can also be a proper noun, as in Yashar Shemuel, or Samuel is upright. As we learned before in the definite articles, that proper names don't require definite articles. They assume that. And so this is one of those examples here. Yafa Ruth. Ruth is beautiful. Verbless clauses with predicate adjectives should also usually be translated only with the English present tense of the verb to be, as we have down here in this section. Sorry about that. We have in this section here. Go ahead and cut this out here, okay? For like I said, we have it should be used in English tense like Sadiq. We have Sadiq Hanavi, the prophet is righteous, or Sadiqim Hanaviim, the prophets are righteous. Apart from context, you should supply the English past tense of the verb to be. A verbless clause can be translated with the past tense was or were, but only if the past tense verbal form is present or warranted by context. So again, a lot of the context, we'll get into that stuff when we get into verbs later on. But the main thing is recognizing that a predicate use of the adjective agrees with the noun it modifies in gender and number, but not in definiteness. That's the key aspect. So basically, given that the predicate adjective never takes a definite article, certain constructions may pose a little bit of ambiguity. For example, Ish Tov can be either translated a good man or a man is good here. So, basically, you let the context, it can be either or in that situation here. So, um, you just let the context dictate the difference in here. Okay. So basically, that's basically notice that we studied Hebrew directional endings of common say. It might be helpful to review that the other common say endings that you have encountered too, so that you'll know the difference sometimes. Usually, when you add to mountain here and you add a definite article to it, and then it has a common say, uh, the accent uses shifts. That's going to tell you that that's a directional hey because the accent is shifting on there. That's not some type of adjective of some sort. Sham is there. Shama is to there, to that place, going that direction. Um, Again, we have Yam, sea or west. We have Yama, toward the sea or toward the west. These are called the directional hays. Comments hay, the directional comments hay here. Um, it may be helpful to review the common sayings that you've encountered. Singular, feminine singular nouns often end in common say, as like Torah. The feminine singular adjectives end in common say, as in Gedolah. And the accent, the la is accented. So one of the basic ways you'll be able to know the difference is that the accent shifts. It's not on the end. Remember, Hebrew nouns tend to have them on the end of the tonic syllable, unless they're seglet nouns, which you got into. But for the most part, when you see that comments hey, it's going to be accented on the end, unless it is one of these comments hey locations or directional hays on here. In the last chapters, you will learn that prepositions, nouns, and definite direct object markers may take a third feminine singular pronominal suffix, which we haven't gotten into yet, that consists of a comments and then a hey with a little dot in the hey. That is a third feminine singular pronominal suffix. That dot is not a dagesh; it's what they call a mapik. We say that little Miss Mapik lost her sheep. Here, that's to tell you that that is a third feminine singular ending. But we'll get into that later on. So as in to la, to her, or susa, her horse. Note, however, that the hey of the third feminine singular pronominal suffix has a dot within it called a mapik. So we'll get into that a little bit later on. In here we'll get into pronominal suffixes. So basically, the main two things you need to know here is the use of the attributive use of the adjective, agrees with the noun in gender, number, and indefiniteness, and the predicate use, which agrees in the noun that's modifying in gender and number, and not indefiniteness. Okay, so we finished for this week on the Hebrew adjectives. We will get into be sure to go ahead and review that chapter and go ahead and do the homework for chapter 7 on Hebrew adjectives. Okay? Until next session, shalom.